fast.
Bowling with the fast.
Get fast.
Got it.
Salsa stabs!
Hello.
This lane, I think.
I would like to challenge Matt Bozak.
Scotty Bull.
人行道马戏。
Well, good Ong's Day evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. I think we should make a day called Ong's Day. I think I got something going there. I hope that catches on, and if not, that's okay. I won't hold any grudges or have any bad feelings about it, but I kind of like that. Ong's Day. I'm going to stick with that. So before I get into all the usual stuff, I have a request for everybody who's out there viewing and all that good stuff. And I've had a similar request the last couple of years. But it is to vote for this show as best local podcast in Volume 1 magazine. What Volume 1 is it's a kind of a free newspaper like you'd see in the entrance to a grocery store. But they do arts and entertainment here in our area, and they give an opportunity for organizations, people, all kinds of entities across Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and the surrounding area to get nominated for certain categories of life, business, anything you can think of. Worst highway, worst potholes, things like that, all the way up to best news anchor and like I said, best local podcast. It doesn't cost you anything to vote. They do make you create an account. It's perfectly free. Just go to bit.ly/vote BWTF2024 and you'll get to the category best local podcast. It is case sensitive, capital V and then capital BWTF. I would sure appreciate it. Doesn't really mean much outside of this little corner of the world, but it helps the show, helps us gain a little notoriety, and certainly puts a smile on my face at this time. It'll be into 2024 when the results are out, but voting goes through December 8th. So if you do vote for the Fef, I'd sure appreciate it. Connor Brown saying, hey, Fef. Hey, Connor, good to see you here live. If you're like Connor and watching live, feel free to chime in the live chat. And if you're on Team Replay watching this after the fact, leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. And if you have any questions, I'll certainly get back to you. I love this. Mark London says the newspaper locked him out. Suppose 50 votes was too many. I don't think so. I think you're just getting warmed up, Mark. But hey, if whatever you can do, if it's one vote or 50, I appreciate each and every one of them. And like I said, certainly means a lot to me. Well, if you were watching just ahead of Thanksgiving, you know that Feftacular 2 was on the docket the night before Thanksgiving. We took over Village Bowl in Menominee Falls with League Night, our second annual celebration. That's Mark Ignatowski that you saw there, throwing a strike from the left side. Started out with the front seven in game one, ended up with a 700 series. But it was Premier Flooring that ended up coming down the stretch with an excellent performance, and they won the Chip Magnet Salsa, as you see there. That's the ultimate prize for Feftacular 2. Again, a little confusion as to what this actually was, but let me clear it up for you. It's basically just a celebration of League Night. We did it last year, didn't live stream it, but it was a whole lot of fun. So we tried it again and gave it a little live stream treatment. Serbsky's Club, the host team that I subbed on, posted on their Facebook page, we wish we could have retained our championship in the salsa battle, but congrats to Premier Flooring for taking the 2023 title, 19.5 points to 16.5. We started out hot, but we could not keep it up. And that holds true for me too. Much like last year, started out pretty well and kind of sputtered down the stretch, but different house, different transition. I'm sure those of you who pop in for an opportunity to sub at some places might have a little unfamiliarity with how things break down, but at least I'm going to think that and not say the obvious, which is I need more practice. Maybe a little coaching in there too. But thanks to all at Village Bowl and the Serbskis Club for hosting Feftacular 2. I'm sure we will work on one for next year. In the meantime, you can see Feftacular 2 in its entirety on the playlist on this channel by the same name. The next live stream event that we have coming up is coming up very soon. The Med City Weekend in Rochester, Minnesota, December 16th and 17th. You've got the adult holiday match games on Saturday with a guaranteed $1,500 first place prize and points toward the $10K Larson Siding, Windows, and Roofing Quadruple Crown, which consists of 4 tournaments. 2 of them have already happened. This will be the 3rd of those events, plus a junior event, a youth match games on Sunday, which is a Minnesota Junior Bowlers Tour major with at least $1,200 in scholarship on top. Organizer Al Houston said earlier today that both fields are about 3/4 full. So if you're interested in bowling for either one, sign up right away. Make sure you get your spot. And if you just want to catch all the action, come on down to Colonial Lanes in Rochester, Minnesota, or tune into this channel. We will have live streaming of both events right here on the Bowling with the Fef channel. Well, Bowling with the Fef looks the way it does and has the support that it does because of Chip Magnet Salsa. Chip Magnet is based in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, but its salsas, relishes, and all kinds of food products are distributed to more than 38 states and Canada. If you haven't tried Chip Magnet before and you want some for yourself, for a gift, always goes well under the Christmas tree, check out this deal. Go to chipmagnetsalsa.com, order $30 or more in Chip Magnet, and enter this promo code before you check out, BWTF2023. You get 20% off your purchase. 1 order per email address. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. And as always, a big thank you to Chip Magnet for supporting local bowling and Bowling with the Fef. So I want to bring out our guest tonight, who just finished up organizing one of the premier weekends of scratch bowling. I should say handicap bowling, but there was a big scratch element to it in the country. The Agent Ong Open brought competitors, amateurs, professionals together in this tournament from all over the country. It also included a sweep the rack sweeper and a $1,000 a game action match. Carl Ong of Eastmark, Arizona, is already planning the second one, and I can't wait to hear about what's going to happen to follow this up as Agent Ong strikes back in 2024. Carl, it is a pleasure to have you on Bowling with the Fef tonight.
No, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's talk about this year's event. Since it's just in the rearview mirror, you've had a chance to kind of step back for a few weeks, figure out how this has gone from your vantage point. How do you think it turned out?
Better than expected. When you have an inaugural event, you don't have any numbers. You have no proof of concept, and you don't have a baseline to go off of. So everything was really up in the air. There was no rhyme or reason. We didn't have anything. We didn't have any projections. We had a number where we were hoping to hit, but we just wouldn't know if we would ever get there. But as the squads progressed throughout the weekend, more and more bowlers showed up, and by the end of it all, we had over, including sweeper, we had over 300 entries.
Wow.
So, it was an amazing success. Very humbling, very surprising, but at the same time, there was a lot of behind the scenes work with a lot of people. My brainchild for sure, but definitely not done by myself by any means. For sure.
Yeah. Something like that really does take a village. I want to say first and foremost that Matt Zweig was the one who won this whole thing. And I have some comments that I'm going to roll out a little later in the show. But on Facebook, after he took the title, he did tell people, simply put, that was the best day I've ever had on the lanes. He said, in some recent tourneys, I've made good runs, but there was some roadblock to the win. He said everything that went right did between execution, on the fly lane play, and throwing my best shots when it mattered. And that's a powerful thing because he is an incredible player. What did you see out of him as he was making this run to the championship?
Focus. He averaged over 240 with a 190 game in the finals on Sunday.
Wow.
So he was clutch when he needed to be. He read the lanes properly the entire weekend. But I did talk to him. Actually, I ran into him a couple days ago, and so he helps coach ASU, Arizona State.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things that he said that he kind of took some initiative was he was helping some of his players that were bowling the tournament. So he stayed around even when he wasn't bowling his particular squads, and he was learning the whole time. He said he was just watching other people play the lanes, and just kind of made himself more comfortable with the decision that he was going to make as the tournament progressed throughout the weekend. So, kudos to him for sticking around and just being a sponge to the pattern and watching other people's lane play. And I think ultimately that might have been, don't get me wrong, he threw the balls, he executed, he did everything, that what he needed to do to win, but he might have had a slight edge because he took the time to kind of hang out and really just kind of take it all in. Yeah. So kudos to him for that.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, we're going to get back to some of that a little later on in the show. Connor wants to know how you're doing this evening. Connor's from Virginia and a frequent consumer of this show.
Awesome. Well, I'm doing well. I'm tired. I had a little bit of a health issue a couple weeks ago, working through that, but everything's good. I'm home. I'm happy to be here, and just taking it easy and looking forward to planning next year's event for sure.
Yeah, for sure. No, can't wait to get into that. And we certainly will. But I want to start out with your bowling story, which is kind of the whole purpose behind this show that we do. It sounds like you're a realtor by trade, but you got to get into bowling a little bit to hold a huge event like this. So kind of take me back to the beginning. How did it all start with you in the sport of bowling?
So it all started with my dad kind of introducing me to it. So little fun fact, my dad had me when he was 59 years old.
Oh.
So I was a late addition to his life for sure. And we couldn't really do a lot of the father-son things like going out and playing football or playing baseball. So one of the things that he would take me when I was probably 10 years old was he took me to a bowling center. Fell in love with the sport, started bowling junior leagues, and started just progressing from there. I ended up meeting Paul Renteria. He ended up working at the bowling center I grew up at, former two-time high roller winner. Wow. So an amazing bowler in his own right. And he took me upon, under his wing for a little while and kind of gave me the fundamentals of how to be a, just a novice bowler to getting fairly decent at it for a while. I won some scratch stuff, some amateur stuff, and then I went out on tour, bowling some regionals. Didn't do well. I kind of learned my lesson on that. I think I got as far as I could. Fairly competitive, but just never enough to try to go out, and do it for a full-time living by any means. Yeah. The guys that do it for a living, absolutely amazing. Their talent is on a whole nother level. Until you've done it at that, going out on tour and bowling the regionals, you really have no gauge of how good you are just bowling league. Yeah. Until you get into competitive bowling and bowling like the original Mega Bucks, where I took my shot at that. I made okay money doing that for a little bit, but that whole PBA tour is a whole different beast for sure.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. The Mega Bucks events, it seems like, the folks who got into them just rave about them and have stories and that kind of thing. How did that level of competition kind of shape you both, in knowledge of the sport and, kind of that ability to reminisce about a really good era in bowling?
So, I met a lot of amazing people during that era. Give you an example like Rob Pirashad, Robert Smith, Chris Schlemmer, Tim Mack, Paul Renteria, like those guys that just, Brian Kretzer, those guys just dominated amateur bowling for so long. Brad Angelo, all those guys just. I met Jason Belmonte for the first time back in the Megabuck eras, back in the 90s, so in early 2000s. And that competitive nature of bowling in those Megabucks got me hooked. Yeah. I love going out every January and July to Vegas. I remember one time with Andrew Kane and I and another buddy named Robbie Patterson, we were in Vegas 17 straight days.
Oh, wow.
That is a long time to be in Vegas, but there was just so much to bowl back then. Between the eliminators, the roller, at that point, the tap was just starting. So there was just so much to bowl back then. And I miss that. I do miss that. And that was the time when World Team Challenges were happening as a separate thing. And there was just so much opportunity to bowl back then. And I'm kind of wishing that it would get back to there, but I just don't know. I will tell you, I have a very small glimpse of running a tournament, and it's obviously not to that scale by any means. For what those guys put on, like Brad Edelman and those guys, absolutely amazing to be able to do something like that. And you just never really know what it goes into that until you do it yourself. And like I said, I had 300 entries. Those guys did in thousands of entries. So I couldn't even imagine the amount of work and preparation that would take to do this. So hats off for creating that lineage for kind of some of us to try to follow, not so much in their footsteps, but I will never try to compete with something like of that scale, but it's definitely eye-opening to see that for sure.
Yeah,
whole new perspective on it. Whole new perspective.
You've gotten awfully close so far, so we'll go with that.
I hope so.
Part of that is kind of these changing variables, and we're in a sport that involves machines that can break down, that can affect things. But the other thing that can affect tournaments is the personalities of the competitors. When you were competing in these, in these high level and broad events like Megabucks and PBA regionals, what was your personality like?
I was a sponge. I kind of, I got to know everyone. I'm a people person. I have no problems introducing myself and talking to everyone. So that's kind of how I became good friends with Robert Smith. My first few tournaments on tour, I ran into him and Tony Reyes up in Hawaii.
Okay.
And so we met, I think, day one of the first regional in Hawaii back in 2000. And at that point, we hung out the entire 2 stops in Hawaii. And from that point forward, we all became really best friends. And I roomed with those guys for a few years. When they were out on the national tour, when they came back, when we bowled in the regionals together, I would have the opportunity to room with those guys. And I learned a whole lot. They've introduced me to so many amazing people. I might not have had the greatest career out on tour by any means, but man, what an amazing opportunity to make so many lifelong friends that I call friends to this day. Yeah. I've been blessed to been able to be introduced to so many amazing players that have become just great friends of mine today. So.
Sure. When you were out there and you mentioned the times were not that great, was there a moment when you decided, okay, that's the straw that broke the camel's back. I can't do this. I got to leave the tour.
I don't even know if I was out there enough to ever think that I'm actually just gonna leave. Like I probably bowled probably 6, 7 events a year. I wasn't going out, trying to get every stop, every month. Like some of these guys that bowl, 2 or 3 regionals a month. Definitely wasn't that. But I think back then there wasn't that many regionals.
Yeah.
Back like there is now. I don't know if there was ever one particular scenario that said, you know what, I can't do this. I think it's just never getting a paycheck,
Yeah.
And just realizing that I kind of just realized my own talent level. And it, like I said, kudos to those guys. They're just that much better, and I'm a realistic person. And I went out for a couple, 3 years, and I had a blast. I think I had more fun hanging out with the guys than I did, really bowling, because it was a struggle. It was a struggle because, I finished in the middle to lower side of the pack, and it just, when you're missing checks, week in and week out, it becomes a toll. And I was single back then. So it was easier for me to take a shot. I didn't have a lot of responsibilities back in Phoenix. But, you start dating, you get married, you have kids, priorities completely flip-flop. And I think I just realized that my money and my time is best served here back in Phoenix, running my businesses and just kind of living vicariously, through the friends that I have that are still out on tour or still bowl, your professional amateurs.
Yeah.
So I've stayed in contact with so many of those people that I fly out. I'll go watch, a Masters. I'll go watch US Open. I'll go hang out at the World Series when it's, when it makes sense, when it's closer. Yeah. So, I have just as much fun sitting in the back and watching and just hanging out for sure.
Did you keep competing in, say, local events after that?
Not really. I think I bowl one league every 3 to 5 years. Like I'll get an itch and then I'll jump on a team. I get asked every year to bowl. I've bowled nationals the last few years with a bunch of guys that probably have I think 4 or 5 teams. So if they'll have me, I mean, I am not competitive at all anymore. And plus injuries are tough. When your mind knows what to do, but your body just can't repeat it and just can't do it. I'm too competitive to where my body fails me that it's just not fun. I think if I went out and bowled on, house, I could probably average 210, maybe, but bowling on sport or bowling on patterns, I don't even think I'd be competitive in my own tournament.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just not there for me. That time has passed for me, in my opinion. I mean, I like to bowl recreationally. I like to, maybe bowl a league with a couple of buddies, just to kind of just stay involved. But for the most part, competitively, I'll bowl like a Baker doubles for fun.
Yeah.
It's just something like that, $50, $100 entries. But I'm not going to go bowl the TAT. I'm not going to bowl any regionals. It's just not a thing for me.
Sure. So. I noticed that we have a live viewer who you've mentioned already, Robert Smith, checking in live. And I want to talk about him a little bit because he was the one who challenged you. We got to know his story quite a bit when he was on the show. But, you mentioned the friendship that you formed with him. And a lot of us had that vantage point from TV. We saw the personality. We saw the big hook. What should we know about Robert that maybe few of us do?
Oh, gosh. One of the most genuine people you'll ever meet. Him and Tony Reyes, it's impossible to not gravitate to those two. Obviously we miss Tony so much. But Robert's just one of those guys that you can count on. I've Robert. I'm nervous. I have a lot of stories I could say, but obviously he knows that I won't. But no, honestly, him and his wife Sherry and his kids, they're just
He's nervous too.
amazing people. And when our families get together, we don't miss a beat. I might not see Robert for 3-6 months at a time, and then we'll just pick up where we left off.
Yeah.
There's not a time that he doesn't come to Phoenix where he's just has to stay at my house. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
Whenever he makes to Vegas for a tournament, I'll try to get out there, whether it's me and a buddy or my family and I. We'll go out there, hang out with them for a few days. But what you see is what you get. I mean, yes, he's super competitive on the lanes, but if you've had a chance to meet Rob outside of him actually shoot up and bowling, he's the easiest guy to have a beer with.
Yeah.
And I think anybody that's met him would say the same thing.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think he certainly came off that way on the show. And Robert, again, thank you so much for spending the time. Really appreciate that. If you didn't catch the show with him, it's on the channel. You can watch it on replay at any point. Was there a point where you decided, hey, it would be a good idea for me to either start running tournaments or run a tournament of my own?
I've been talking about this for a while. I've always stayed around bowling just because I always wanted to hang out. I have a competitive nature, but like I said, I have physical limitations these days. I've always talked to Robert about it. Andrew Kane is another one of my best friends. So I've always, and Alex Aguiar is another guy that I've kind of lofted this idea back and forth with him for probably over 2 or 3 years now. But last year, I really just wanted to hone in on what can I do to make this actually happen. And then in February of this year is when I actually booked the center without having a completed concept or a name or anything. But I knew this is the weekend that I wanted, and I'm going to build a tournament around these 4 days. And with picking the brains of like Chris Schlemmer, Robert Smith, Andrew Kane, like all the guys that I was naming, and a lot of local guys too. Anything from league bowlers to PBA guys that are either active or retired. I picked the brains of a whole lot of people. And that's why I said, like, yes, it might be my ultimate brainchild. But at the end of the day, it was a collaboration of a whole lot of people. So as much as I want to take credit for it, I can't. And another guy that I got to mention is Theo with Complete Bowling Events. He runs a scratch tournament club out here in Phoenix. And let me tell you, he runs a tight ship. He just can take a tournament and just run with it. So I basically came up with the format, the marketing for it. But the day the tournament hit, he took off with it. I was able to kind of like shake hands, kiss babies, take payments kind of thing, and be on the stream with Emil and Chris. But for the most part, behind the scenes, Theo deserves all the kudos for that. Yeah. But yeah, it just kind of came to fruition. I put it all together with all these people that I mentioned, and it kind of just went.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Was I guess what came of it was not just a tournament, but really a weekend of events. Was that something that you envisioned from the start, or did this thing kind of grow and grow as you got deeper into it?
Well, so I have an event management background too. So I've never wanted to just host a tournament. I really kind of wanted to be an event base, so I think that's kind of a tease. Next year is more of not just a tournament. It's actually going to be an event. We're going to do a few more things that is going to be able to bring in hopefully additional spectators and give them not just bowling to watch, but different participation as well. Maybe with various sponsors that we're going to have, and hopefully have some more fan and spectator interactions, not just for the bowlers. But looking back at the mega buck model, they always had sweepers.
Mm-hmm.
They always had, and then I look at the PBA, they've always had like a pro-am or something to that effect. So I didn't want just squads of bowling.
Yeah.
So, we added a sweeper, we added an action match. We did that all on Thursday night. So we kicked off the tournament with 2 squads, and then we rolled into the ancillary event type scenario where we had the 3-game sweeper with Sweep the Rack sweeper. And then we went right into the action match with Greg Thompson Jr. and Robert Smith.
Yeah.
So, I definitely want more than just, a tournament. So I think we kind of have that footprint now, and we're going to build off of that for sure.
Yeah. The action match part of it was very interesting to me because I had just heard of it before Robert came on.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to kind of reset some of that too, because we talked about that when he was on. Here's what he said kind of led up to that.
He just kept bouncing ideas off me and stuff. And then there was a couple matches that were going on out here, and they said, why don't we do a match, throw an action match, a challenge to just anybody to kind of promote the tournament, just to raise some stink or whatever about it. Okay. And I said, I kind of put up a fight for a little bit. Carl knows I put up fights quite a bit on him on this stuff, but I'm like, yeah, let's do it. But if we're going to do it, I don't want to do it for just 500. Everybody does it 500. If we're going to do it, let's do it for 1,000. He goes, seriously? I go, yeah, if we're going to do it, let's do it for 1,000. So boom. Okay. Post it up there. And apparently in 6 hours, GT2 just chimed in and said, I'll take it.
Just like that. And what you end up with is Robert Smith versus George Thompson II and or Greg Thompson II. I'm sorry. And he ends up taking it 3-2. Was that a surprise for you?
I don't know if it was necessarily a surprise because these guys are good.
Yeah.
Robert probably had a little more name recognition because of, the amount of telecasts Rob's been on it and winning the US Open as an example. But Greg is no slouch. I mean, this guy can flat out bowl. Was I surprised? This whole time I was begging for a 3-2 split because they're both really good friends of mine. I didn't want someone to get whacked for $5,000. Could it have happened? Rob being down 0-3, and Rob staying at my house for the week. So I'm like, man, that's going to be a pain in the ass to have Rob at the house for 4 or 5 days when he's down $5,000 to start and he hasn't even bowled the tournament yet.
Yeah.
So no, not surprising just because of the simple fact, like I said, the talent level between those two guys is out of this world.
Yeah.
So did I think it was going to look with Robert going down that, in that fashion early? No, that was surprising. That I would tell you was not expected. But I don't know. Only those two guys know what happened out there. I was just the guy holding all the money. Those guys are throwing all the balls and doing all the hard work. I just got the front row seat for the action for sure.
Yeah. Well, it was really cool. And again, there is a live stream that's, on, I believe that's Bowlstream TV.
Bowlstream TV, yeah, it's on Bowlstream TV's YouTube channel. And man, yeah, I'll tell you what. So that weekend, that was live on Thursday. I think by Saturday, it already had like 15,000 views.
Yeah.
For a tournament that's named after nobody but me, right? I named it after my real estate team. The amount of viewership that we've had over the last 30 days, we're approximately 30 days removed now, a little over 30 days removed now, and the amount of viewership that's been tagged, and and super thanks to Emil and Chris for making the tournament look good. You know what I mean? Emil runs an amazing stream, and we're excited to partner with him and have him come back next year for sure. And then having someone with the mind of Chris Schlemmer, just the ball motion and the covers, just all his ball knowledge with Storm and Rotogrip. I mean, in 900 Global, it's just I couldn't have put together those two guys and had a better 4 days of just knowledge behind the mics, and explaining what they were seeing on the lane, what the bowlers were going through, the equipment they were throwing. I mean, they are one of the biggest reasons why I think my tournament was a success for sure.
Yeah.
So hats off to those guys as well.
Yeah, for sure. And Emil, I mean, he's the gold standard.
Yeah,
in
that guy knows what he's doing for sure.
For sure. We mentioned the Sweep the Rack sweeper that was won by this gentleman, Nat Jones.
Yep.
So I reached out to the Sweep the Rack guys, for a little debrief about how that went. Big Mike told me bowling needs more people like you, like Chris Viali, like Greg Tack. There are others too, he says, he's just naming off the top here, who go above and beyond to provide opportunities for bowlers to compete at a high level. He says he gives the people that make these type of events happen mad props. And Rob says, you do it the right way. Every tournament director could learn things from you. Attention to marketing online, feedback from bowlers, planning ahead, putting out a fair shot. He said the second Agent Ong, and I believe that's a typo, Ong Open, will be bigger than the first due to your hard work. I mean, these guys are critical of a lot of tournaments. And for them to pile that praise on you has got to feel really good.
It's amazing, and I'll make sure and give them their $20. For sure. Thank you. Thank them so much for those kind words. But honestly, they gave me a platform too. Prior to the tournament, they had us on a couple of times and promoted the tournament on their podcast. And Rob and Big Mike, thank you guys so much for the opportunity to help grow the tournament. I couldn't have done it without them. And that's what I keep saying. There's just so many people behind the scenes that they all deserve, their name on the trophy as well, for sure. But no, it means a lot, because they've seen a lot. The feedback has been nothing but positive. I think, the night the tournament was over, I had posted that I'm going to need a few days to kind of regroup and really come up with the proper thank you. But that same night we had just tons of people that had chimed in and said that it was an amazing tournament. It was well run. The payout was better than expected. And like I said, that's just that's thanks to Theo for running a very smooth tournament. We cut checks within minutes of them. As each round went, we had checks done within minutes. It's just the people behind the scene. My wife, Virginia Young. There's just so many people, for sure. That, but yeah. So compliments from like Rob and Big Mike for stuff like that. Humbling for sure.
Yeah. I want to take an opportunity just for those folks who are just getting to know the channel for the first time. Please consider subscribing. You can hit that little logo in the bottom right. Doesn't cost you anything. It certainly helps me out, and you can be the first to know when we go live and put up new videos and things like that. Robert says, you have no idea how much Carl put in. Twice a week he had ideas, questions, pattern questions, and I think constantly asking questions like that really kind of weeds out the bad stuff and hones in the good, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, for the most part, I tried to take everyone's input. I really want to reiterate this. This is a bowler's tournament. This is not my tournament. It might be named after me, but it is truly a bowler's tournament. I want to stress that. Like, I will take feedback. I will make changes, as I think the evolution of the game. What we have in iteration 1, there might not be very much variance to maybe number 2, but as the years go on, hopefully, and as bowling evolves, I want to evolve the tournament alongside where the sport goes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit on my laurels. I'm not going to sit on the success of year one. I think that's why maybe tournaments come and go, because they bank on the original success and they don't want to maybe evolve. Now, I'm not saying any particular tournament club or whatnot, but maybe that is one particular reason why tournament clubs come and go at times.
Sure.
And that's where I'm just trying to go in a completely different mindset, for sure.
Okay. So one of the interesting things that I noticed as I'm looking, kind of following along and looking up and down the leaderboard, is that a gentleman named Briley Howe, who lives about 2 hours away from me in Owatonna, Minnesota, was in the field and was making noise in this thing.
Mhm.
So I reached out. He mentioned that his brother's in your area, and Wesley Lowe was his roommate at Wichita State. He mentioned that you did a great job, or that Theo did a great job with the squad management, and you did an awesome job promoting it. He said you also did a good job putting a team of people together to run that event. And he says definitely something I'll be going down to again. That's a lot of travel to go to an event. When you were getting into this, were you expecting that you'd have people from the Midwest, from different parts of the country coming down for this?
I was hoping, but Phoenix is not a draw like Vegas is, right?
Yeah.
There's ancillary things to do in Vegas. As much as it's a gambling, state or city, there's a lot of families that can travel there, and there's other things for them to do. Now, I will give Phoenix, all the credit in the world. It's the perfect time of year to come to Phoenix in October.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the golf weather, just weather in general, is perfect.
Yeah.
It's that fall bringing in winter type scenario for us. So you're getting 80-degree weather. Pretty much 24 hours a day. So I would say that that was absolutely surprising. We had people all the way from Boston. We had people from Canada. Unfortunately, we had a couple of people that had to withdraw or just couldn't make it. But Pete Weber, was one of our first entrants that was going to bowl. Sean Rash was another entrant that was going to bowl, but for illnesses, they weren't able to come out. But Pete called me on Thanksgiving, says, "Hey, I want to be entry number 1 next year." So I'm happy that he's healthy, and he was going through a lot for the last couple of months. So wish Pete and Sean the best. But yeah, Sean, I know is healthy, but Pete, he's gone through a lot the last couple of months. So I'm glad to see him back on the lanes and feeling better, just in general, for sure.
For sure. No, that's awesome. Briley, talked about not only running, your running of that tournament, but he mentioned that he said he was actually part of a pretty crazy situation as this went. He said he made the eliminator. He beat Brianna Cote in the first round. Then he bowled another female competitor. He said best of 3 match. He tells me she crushed me in the first game, and then she had me dead to rights in game 2. He said he threw the back 4 for 202. She was on a double and needed 3 pins on her first ball to beat him. And he said she planked the 10 pin off in the first ball, then gets 7 for 199. He ends up shooting 230 to win the match. What was that like to see in the moment?
So I would tell you, I was in the booth and there was no cameras on that pair.
Okay.
That got to us within seconds of it happening, because there was a big gas in the center when that happened. Now, Adrian Hare, which is, so if everyone doesn't know, is Mike Miller's daughter from New Mexico.
Okay.
And, Mike Miller is the one that helps with the New Mexico Open and a previous PBA champion, in his own right.
National champion.
So she can bowl. And I didn't see it, but I believe she just kind of threw it out the window. It just kind of hung, on the edge and just picked the 10 off.
Yeah.
And she needed 3 or 4 to flip count and to shut Bradley out, and it didn't happen. And they forced a game 3, and the rest is history.
True.
He moved on.
Yeah.
So, Big Mike chimed in.
Oh.
Hey, Mike, thanks for the compliments.
Yeah.
And again, thank you for all you did to help the tournament. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No, always appreciate him and what he does. Sweep the Rack Bowling Podcast here on YouTube is an excellent watch, follow,
Absolutely.
subscribe, like, all that good stuff. So, back to this, I guess we never really explained what the pattern was that went out for these competitors.
So the pattern was a work in progress for about 3 months. We must have tested that pattern probably 3 or 4, probably 12 iterations of it. And unfortunately, there's not many people that can practice on it because I wasn't going to allow anyone to touch it or see it if they were going to bowl the tournament. So basically, if you were going to practice on it, I wasn't going to allow you to bowl. That pattern was hush hush until a week before, and then all we did was give out the length, the ratio, and the volume. That's all we gave out. We didn't even post the pattern until after the tournament was over.
Okay.
That was probably one of the biggest compliments we got was the pattern, because after 8 squads and 220, 230 total entries for the main event, the cut score was 0.
Wow.
Dead 0 after that many people and that many attempts at it. There was some outliers like Carson Opella. I mean, he shot that kid went 14.06. He went 206 over.
Wow.
Simonson was right behind him. But yeah, the cut score at 0 was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Everyone said that the shot was difficult but super fair, and I think that's probably the best thing you could have. For me, at least in my opinion, there's patterns that people that love tournaments that it's a grind where it takes 50, 100 under, and there's tournaments that take 200-300 over to make a cut. I mean, everyone has kind of like how they see it. I was hoping for a plus 20, 30, 50, maybe 210 average. The 0 was actually, it worked out even better than I thought, but I was trying to keep the pace around 210. That was the goal initially, for sure.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And then, you saw the final 4 that was on the graphic to this video. This is kind of how they ended up shaping up in the end. Zweig as the champion, and Alec Keplinger and Anthony Simonson and Cortez Shank, these guys that the lot of us who follow professional bowling know very well. When I contacted Matt about the tournament, he told me that the Agent Ong Open, for how many squads were ran, was one of the most player-friendly events he's bowled. He said the pattern was one of the rare, difficult, but fair conditions. He said that for him to win was an amazing moment, an accumulation of many years of hard work. And he said the Agent Ong Open has quickly put itself on the map as one of the nation's premier 10K events. Now, easy for him to say he won the whole thing, but there was a lot in there. And to have that, that conglomeration of fair but difficult shot, good payout, like you said, the checks went out right away. It was pretty easy to keep track of the standings from Wisconsin and other places. I mean, for all that to come together, after it's all said and what luck do I have that all this stuff, because there are so many pitfalls and so many, landmines that you can step on in something like that.
I caught lightning in a bottle, and I'm hoping to be able to, I hope that I can do it again. But I surrounded myself with the same people. And the feedback that I've gotten made me want to do it again. Honestly, there was a point in time where, and my family, thank you for putting that picture up. They were such an integral part of giving me the time. My two daughters, my stepson, my wife, they gave me so much opportunity to let me run with it. And my wife, Kathy, she lets me take chances. And I got to give her all the kudos in the world for that. Because this was I guaranteed the price. So that was, what if I only had 30 people show up? I'm guaranteeing 10K on top, 2,000 for fourth, and 550 load of cash. I mean, I could have put a second on the house. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that. But she also knows that if I believe in something, I'm going to work 500% to make sure that I don't fall flat on my face.
Yeah.
And I surrounded myself with amazing people, like I said. If I was to try to do this undertaking on my own, no chance.
Sure.
I will admit that that was not going to be a possibility if I didn't surround myself with amazing people, for sure.
Yeah. So let's move on to Agent Ong Strikes Back. What can we expect in that? And first of all, it is at the same center. And tell us the dates again for those who aren't familiar.
So it's going to be October 17th through the 20th of 24. So we already have the dates. It's going to be a Thursday through Sunday again for next year. So hopefully, and one of the things I will tell you is I tried to look around to hope that I'm not running against any other tournament, as obviously as much as I can.
Sure.
I am not here to step on anybody's toes. I'm a one time a year person. I'm not trying to start a tournament club. I'm not, trying to do anything like that. I just want to hold an annual event. And that's really my focus for now. I don't foresee myself doing much more than one a year. But yeah, the dates are locked in. Bowlero Kyrene was an amazing host year number one. I had a couple opportunities to potentially move the tournament, but it just felt right to return back to Bowlero Kyrene. They were, like I said, gracious hosts, and I think now that we kind of have, there might not have been kinks that people might have not seen. But there's obviously some things that were behind the scenes that we had to work out, that we got worked out before anything could have catastrophic could happen by any means. But we kind of know what to expect now for next year, so the planning is going to be that much better. And now that we know that, hey, we can house 300. With a sweeper, we know that we can efficiently run 300 entries through a weekend. Now we can scale it. Now that we know what manpower we need, what the staff needs from the center, what additional staff that Theo and I might need while at the tournament site, and maybe how to even market it better for this next coming 10 months. Because marketing's already started. We've already had some sponsors that have come on board, and I think there's going to be even bigger sponsors coming up for this coming year that, once we get them, pen to paper, we'll definitely be announcing. I think the tournament has a better outlook than even this past year, for sure.
Cool. One of the things that you have announced a little while ago was that you brought Sarah Klassen on for social media work.
Yeah, for sure. So, she has an amazing channel on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chance to meet her for the first time at the tournament, And quick story with her. I don't know if you saw what happened at the Desperado squad.
No, I didn't.
So it was a 2-game Desperado, and it was a 1-8 cut.
Okay.
We had 18 entries, so we're only taking 2.
Yep.
Garrett Strell and Sarah Klassen were basically tied for 1-2.
Wow.
A gentleman by the name of Josh Anthony struck out to leapfrog both of them to force a 9th and 10th frame roll off.
Wow.
So unfortunately, Sarah was on the short end of that, but she took it super graciously, and I, got a chance to speak to her during the finals, and I'm very impressed by just who she is as a person, her athletic ability as a bowler, and honestly, she has an amazing following. It made perfect sense to ask her if she would want to do a collaboration with the tournament. She's a world traveler, when it comes to bowling. I think, hopefully that I can bring, something to her for her benefit over the next year. And at the same time, collaborate with her, and hopefully she can put more eyeballs on the tournament. So when she's out there bowling, hopefully, kind of letting people know more about the tournament that, she participated in, and honestly, I didn't even know she vlogged about the tournament leading up to it, because, the 2 days or day before, I mean, she traveled, I think, like 15, 18 hours that Thursday and bowled the sweeper that night.
Wow.
So, I mean, she was all the way from Florida. I think she had made 1 or 2 stops along the way to get to the tournament, and I didn't know she was doing it. So I got wind of it, and I started watching it. I didn't get home till after midnight every night, but I tuned in just to want to see what it was all about. And I mean, she was so gracious about the words that she spoke about the tournament that it made perfect sense to reach out to her and see if we can work together, for sure.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what comes of all that and the preparation and stuff for Agent Ong Open too. You kind of go into this, I would imagine, with some kind of goal, right? You saw that you brought in more than 300. You have this successful event, lightning in a bottle, you called it. Is there a goal that you set for the next one?
I have a goal in my head. I don't know if I want to say it, because then I don't want to jinx myself.
Sure.
I think growth is going to be hopefully the progression of the marketing and the player feedback, because I had a lot of bowlers reach out to me after the tournament. I think, and with true purpose and understanding, there should have been, and probably a lot of people leery of, who is this guy, that's running a tournament. He's guaranteeing this money, but can you pay? And if I was traveling from across the country, I'd probably think twice too. Sure. And I get it, and that's a lot. And I think I got what I got is because of the people that were talking about it. I had legitimate bowlers that bowl, for a living, that have bowled a ton of stuff, that know me on a personal level. Guys like Cortez, which good luck on Rookie of the Year. I think he got it. That's my personal opinion. Sure. Nothing against anybody else, but that's my personal pick for Rookie of the Year for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get it. So do I think it's going to be bigger? Yes, just because of the amount of work that was put in by everybody and the feedback that I've gotten post tournament. So and hopefully with the sponsors that are coming, with some marketing that's going to be coming down the pipe here, hopefully in the coming weeks and months, that we'll have a bigger draw, and we're ready for it. And I think that's the biggest thing. Without preparation, without knowing, I think we did a really good job.
Yep.
I think now that we're prepared and we know what to expect and we can hopefully anticipate more, I think it'll be even that much smoother for sure.
Well, best of luck to you as you take that on. As you know well, we go off the sheet in this show by asking you to challenge somebody else. Doesn't have to be the greatest bowler in the world, but certainly can be, to come on a future episode. We just look for people who are passionate about the sport, have a unique story to tell. Robert Smith challenged you. So now, Carl Ong, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling?
Oh, goodness. Cortez.
Yeah.
Since we just talked about him, Cortez Shank. I think he has an amazing story. And he's probably one of the hardest workers I've ever met in regards to his work ethic on and off the lanes. He's a super genuine young man and super talented.
Yep.
I mean, I think he's a better person than he is a bowler, and we all know how good of a bowler he is.
Yep.
So, and if I can add one more person,
yeah,
maybe one more group.
Mm-hmm.
Mike and Brandy Calderon on B3.
Okay.
They run a performance center out here in the Phoenix area, and I've known Brandy, Brett Wolf's sister, Brandy Calderon. So I've known the Wolf family forever. I've had an opportunity to know Mike for many, many years, and they're class acts. And I think they might bring a whole new perspective on maybe string pins.
Yep.
That's the kind of like the talk of the bowling industry for the last few months, or maybe even a year. So a lot of controversy there, but maybe they can shed some light on their version of what string pin looks like for them. For sure.
No, great ideas. I love them all. Cortez, of course, that physical game is just tremendous, and certainly be interested in getting to know him and his story. Mike and Brandy, we've heard of B3 just through not only Sweep the Rack because Rob bowls there, but Wesley, who's worked there. So yeah, the three of them would be great. If any of you are interested, if all of you are interested, you can find me on Facebook. My name is Andrew Pfeffer, or you can email me bowlingwiththepfeff@yahoo.com. We would love to get that going for a future episode. Speaking of a future episode, our next live stream is coming up a week from Friday on December 8th. We're bringing Connor Brown in, one of our frequent contributors to the live stream. He's from Virginia. Going to discuss his bowling story that started when he was very young, and he's had some tremendous growth in this sport ever since. Again, Friday, December 8th. 7 p.m. Central. Don't miss it. Carl, if people are looking to kind of follow along with the progress of Agent Ong Strikes Back, or maybe even register for next year's event, where should they follow? What should they be paying attention to?
So right now, we haven't updated the website yet, so that will have updated information. It's kind of, I haven't even looked at that website since the tournament, but Facebook for sure. Facebook.com/Agent Ong Open. That's pretty much what we update all the time until we put the new face for Strikes Back on the website.
Sure.
So until then, that's pretty much the best way. But you can email me at carl@agentongopen.com. You can hit me on Facebook. Not hard to find for sure. So just feel free to hit me up, and we'll answer any questions that you might have. And if there's anybody that wants to be a part of maybe even sponsoring the event, love to, have us be considered. I think we have a good product now, and I have proof of concept, and a meal will make you look amazing.
Yep. That's for sure. I can guarantee that. But yeah, Carl, thank you so much for spending the time with us. Really appreciate getting to know you and your story, and congratulations on just a tremendous event that you ran.
Thank you again for the opportunity. I'm glad Robert introduced us. So again, you have an amazing podcast. Thanks for having me. And I'll continue to watch and support your stream, sir.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And thanks to everyone who took the time to tune in. Always appreciate it on live or replay. And again, we will see you again coming up on December 8th. Don't miss it. Till then.